Natlan is on the horizon, ladies and gentlemen. With that being said, I thought I'd offer you all 5 wonderful tips and tricks in order to prepare for the new region's release. My name is Juice, and let's get into it. The first major thing that I'm gonna recommend to you is not sleeping on doing all of your weekly bosses. This is for a few reasons. First of all, look up the materials of all rerun characters that you want and fight their weeklies now so that you can stock up on all the materials that you need right now, so that when new weekly bosses get introduced to the game, you can focus on farming them instead and be already prepared for your desired reruns in advance. I'd also say fight Arlecchino's weekly, because if you take a look at Linny, he uses Apep's materials. Mualani and Kinich are more than likely going to use Arlecchino's materials, which I find really funny since somebody as silly as Mualani is going to be using the remains of some intimidating flame beast. Also, more recent characters in general will be using that weekly, so fight it a good chunk of times. Then we get onto the real reason as to why I recommend that you don't sleep on your weeklies. Good old dream solvents. These are going to be your absolute best friend. It's wise that you pick up as many as you can right now, because whenever new units come out alongside brand new weekly bosses, we're all gonna be stuck at level 6 to 8 talents for a hot minute. And more often than not, level 6, because you won't always be fortunate enough to land 2 of the exact weekly material that you need in order to max out your new character's talents. I mean, shoot, who remembers when Farina came out and we all had to wait week after week to truly appreciate her ultimate potential since we had to farm the whale boss so much? I mean, damn, one of my close friends literally thought that Farina was mid since he was stuck at level 6 talents with her for a couple of weeks. Having quite a few delicious dream solvents on hand is really going to alleviate this problem for you, which is why I seriously urge you to hone in on farming those and not missing out on a single attempt to clear a weekly, with the hopes that you may build up a solid library of dream solvents. This is especially dire considering that you aren't always guaranteed to get a dream solvent drop, so don't sleep on this tip. New character releases oftentimes equal the release of new bosses to fight for their Ascension materials, and the inception of a brand new region often means the release of a crazy brand new artifact set. I mean shoot, take a look at Fontaine. Mayonnaise Hunters and Golden Troop are 2 absolute behemoth artifact sets, and pairing them together made for one hecking meaty domain to farm. I have no doubt in my mind that once the version 5.0 livestream rolls around, a pair of groundbreaking new artifact sets are going to be announced. So you absolutely want to be ready for that, with plenty of fragile resin. I also don't want to neglect the fact that you can't pre-farm for these characters' boss materials. It costs 46 pieces of boss material in order to raise a Genshin character from their first ascension stage all the way to their final one, and that's gonna cost you a pretty penny when it comes to your resin reserves. So if you're intending on pulling for Mualani day 1, allow me to break down how much pieces of fragile resin you'd ideally want to have on hand. We're gonna assume that you're starting off with 0 resin, and each fragile resin gives you 60 resin, not to mention how each boss battle will cost you 40 resin pieces a pop. 2 fragile resin pieces equals 120 resin, which equals 3 boss fights. Let's assume the worst case scenario in which you get 2 boss pieces every single time. That will most likely never happen to you. But anyways, that would be 23 boss fights, and since every 3 boss fights cost you 120 resin, 23 divided by 3 equals 7.6, so let's round that up to 8. So in the absolute worst case scenario, you'd want 8 pieces of fragile resin. Now if you get 3 pieces every time, that's 16 boss fights, and since every 3 boss fights cost you 120 resin, that's 5 boss fights plus 1 more, since 15 divided by 3 equals 5, and you want to add 1 more boss fight to reach 16. So on average, you can expect to need in between 5 to 8 pieces of fragile resin, with 8 being the absolute number that would give you everything you need. And you can expect to do between 16 to 24 boss fights if you want to max out Mualani day 1. However, good luck being able to pick up all of our materials, since everyone's gonna be ravenous over entering other people's worlds to pillage Ascension materials on day 1. Me personally, I'm just gonna wait out that whole mess until a couple of days later. Man, besides, who's even going to have all the waypoints unlocked and areas explored day 1? Unless you're one of those crazy, I 100%ed the new region in 2 hours kind of folks. It honestly shocks me how many people I know that simply don't collect any Crystalflies, despite the fact that they're so easy to get and barely add any extra minutes onto your playtime for a world of better convenience. When the new region comes out, there's obviously going to be a lot more talent books that you're going to have to farm, and of course, all those artifacts that I mentioned earlier. So really, don't sleep on picking up your Crystalflies. It barely adds any game time, and you end up saving time in the long run because of it. Trust me. So allow me to walk you through my personal short Crystalflies route that I like to take every day that leaves you with enough to condense all your resin for the day, while leaving some left over so you can build up a solid reserve for especially busy periods of the year. Here's how many Crystalflies that we're starting with. First, teleport to Mondstadt's tree. Then go to Guyun Stone Forest. If you have Wanderer, you can fly to collect the ones that are running away, but otherwise just grab the ones that you can. I oftentimes find that with Xian Yun, when you try to grab them during her skill, the entity will just time out, so don't bother. Then go outside of the domain and turn here and try to get these two. Usually getting both is easy, but if you miss the other one then don't sweat it. Now teleport to the Fontaine Talabooks domain and get these Crystalflies. They're extremely easy to catch since you guys are both underwater. And then voila, if you condense all 5 resin at once, you will still be left with more than you started with. There's no need for some crazy and elaborate Crystalfly farming route. Simply by doing this, you should have more than enough to set you on the right track and build up your reserves little by little every day, so that you'll have enough for when Natlan rolls around. The release of a new region means the release of an updated artifact strongbox. The strongbox usually updates with the artifact set to the region that came before the one that you're about to leave. So for example, in Sumeru, we got all the oldest legacy sets added to the strongbox, and in Fontaine, we got all of the Inazuma sets added to the strongbox. This time we'll see all of the Sumeru artifact sets added to the strongbox, and who knows if Hoyoverse will dip into any Fontaine artifact sets. For that reason, I sincerely recommend stocking up on all of your garbage artifact sets. Don't bother with foddering them. Saving them so that you can more easily access older options will allow you to build your desired rerun characters way faster, and if a newer unit has access to an older option, it saves you resin since you won't have to spend weeks farming in a strong boxable domain, which wouldn't be ideal. You'll be able to focus all your time and effort on the brand new Natlan sets, which will be relevant for the next 2 years, since we won't get Natlan sets put into the strongbox until whatever is coming after Snezhnaya, which is actually kinda scary to think about. Genshin's story is almost at its climax. But anyways, yes, just hold on to your trash pieces for later on. And I think the most important thing of them all is, how are you gonna procure enough Primo Gems to pull for all the amazing new characters that you want? Simple. There is most likely a ton of Primo Gems hidden across your map in all those old quests that you haven't bothered to do for a long time, all those oculi that you've chosen to ignore, and all those chests that you've left unopened since the puzzles were too annoying at the time. Well, now it's time to boot up some puzzle guides and quest guides and clear all those pending quests, since you'll get a ton of Primo Gems from doing so. Yes, the Primos do come within small amounts, but it does absolutely build up, especially depending on how many old quests and areas that you've chosen to ignore. I'm looking at you, Aranara ignorers. It is kinda grueling and time consuming to do all of those quests, so take your time with it of course, but by cleaning up the last region's scraps completely, you can safely and happily move on to Natlan with the peace of mind that you haven't missed anything in the previous regions. This is especially crucial for all you completionists out there. Jokes aside, this is especially crucial for all you free-to-plays out there. You need all the Primo Gems that you can possibly get your hands on, and what better way is there to do that than exploring the world? I recommend following 100% area guides and follow them from back to front, because there is a 99% chance that you've already claimed all of the early and easy to get chests, and if you realize you're missing one, instead of going through the entire video all over again, use the treasure compass because it's going to highlight those 1 or 2 areas that you're missing, and then you can go back to that spot in the video to see where you left the chest. Don't sleep on the summer event either. There's plenty of Primo Gems hidden in the exploration of it, and there are plenty of exploration and quest guides on YouTube which will help you completely max out the areas. There's probably a good few thousand Primo Gems hidden within these events. I'm really gonna recommend the absolute GOAT Kyostin for these kind of general overworld guides. I don't personally know the guy, but his videos are great for this stuff. No idea if you're gonna see this ever, but dude, your videos are great. WoW quests also usually will have whatever you're looking for with Genshin quests. Just look up the quest name and his channel will probably be the first. Natlan's a very exciting introduction to Genshin Impact, and I personally can't wait to pull for all the new characters and have a look around the new region with all the fun new exploration mechanics. Comment down below how much savings you've got for your favorite Natlan character of choice. I myself am after Kinnage. Cannot wait for that guy. Remember to join my Discord and follow my Twitter, both of those links will be down below in the pinned comment and description. My Ko-Fi will also be in both of those places if you're interested in supporting me. Otherwise, feel free to check out my channel memberships, which I've opened up recently as of posting. You can gain access to some cool emotes. More perks and tiers coming soon. Check me out at twitch.tv/JuiceChanYT if you want to catch me live sometimes playing Genshin, Wuthering Waves, Honkai Star Rail, and much more other things. Hopefully this video was able to give you 5 very useful tips in order to prepare for Natlan. This has been Juice signing out, and my biggest tip regarding Natlan is that you should pull for Kinnage if you have very good taste.